Shocking truths. Are you living by the flesh at 3 a.m.? Discover Galatians 5's dark warning now. It was a night unlike any other, when shadows twisted into specters, and even the bravest souls dared not wander alone. 3 a.m. held a special kind of horror under its veil, and the world was steeped in its eerie silence. In the tiny town of Millstone, secrets lay thick, like a blanket of fog rolling in off the river. People whispered of creatures lurking in the dark, of curses that struck only in the dead of the night. Then came the warnings from the old church, with its cracked stained glass and steeple that pointed accusingly at the sky. The minister, a frail old man with eyes like storm clouds, spoke fervently about Galatians 5. The flesh, he cried. It leads you astray. It's a temptation you don't want to entertain. Folks would shiver, drawing their jackets tighter as icy tendrils of fear crept up their spines. That night, they learned that giving in to the flesh could bring about the most twisted of fates. Every household in Millstone had their own stories, but the most chilling came from the Harringtons. They had lost their son last fall, or at least that's what they told themselves. Yet, at 3 a.m., the townsfolk swore they could hear his laughter slicing through the stillness, a ghostly echo urging them to join him. No one dared step out. No one wanted to find out what had truly happened that fateful night when he had, mysteriously, vanished. And then, there were the nights that followed. Windows rattled from unseen forces, strange whispers filled the air, and fleeting shadows raced past the streetlights. Laughter turned to screams on occasion, and it seemed everyone was searching for answers in vain. Could the darkness really house the warnings of Galatians? It felt as if something wicked was clawing at the edges of their reality, eager to pull them in. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The chilling air thickened as another night approached, and the clock ticked ever closer to 3. Each tick felt like a bomb ready to detonate. Were these warnings about to come to life? As the townsfolk gathered for another restless night, questions hung like heavy fog. What else was hiding beneath the facade of their normal lives? And as the clock struck 3, they prepared to confront the darkness, or perhaps it would confront them first. The clock's chime echoed hauntingly through the mist that blanketed Millstone. It felt as if time had stilled for a moment, only to be ripped apart by a single, sharp cacophony of laughter. It rang through the quiet streets, chilling the bones of anyone who dared to listen. It wasn't the jovial laugh of a child, but a twisted mockery of what once was, reverberating into the hearts of the townspeople. An icy gust swept past as the Harrington porch light flickered. Margaret Harrington, wide-eyed with terror, peered into the night, her heart hammering in her chest. "It can't be him," she whispered, stifling a sob. Her husband Tom gripped her arm, his face ashen. "We need to stay inside. They say the laughter, it lures you. It tries to pull you in." Yet, beneath all that fear, curiosity brewed like a storm. What happened in the woods behind their house that autumn night? The questions clawed at their insides, desperate for answers. But the price of insight promised to be steep. Many had already paid dearly. Across the street, young Lily Thompson clutched a flashlight, her hands trembling. With a brave flick of the switch, the beam cut through the encroaching darkness, illuminating the gathering fog. It felt alive, swirling, wrapping around her legs like a sinister mist. She could hear the laughter echoing again, beckoning her. "Mom," she called out, but her voice was swallowed by the silence. The words hung in the air, full of desperate energy, waiting for someone to respond. Suddenly, from the depths of the forest, a figure emerged, pale and skeletal against the moonlight. It moved at an unnatural angle, limbs twisted like the branches above. "Come play with me, Lily," it called, its voice wrong, tainted with something that should not exist. The eyes, hollow and void, glimmered with intent, searching for a soul to ensnare. Lily gasped, dropping the flashlight. She fled toward her house, heart pounding, echoing the frantic beats of her desperate prayers. Meanwhile, the minister's voice rang in her ears. Do not heed the flesh's call. It blooms only death. Back in the Harrington home, the clock ticked louder, matching the wild pulsing of their hearts. What if he isn't gone? Tom whispered, the unsettling thought teetering at the edge of his mind. What if it's true what they're saying? What if he is still out there? A sudden bang on the door made everyone jump. Open up. A voice cried no, begged. But it didn't belong to a neighbor. It belonged to a child lost in the woods long before. I want to come home. The flesh hungers, gasped Margaret. Our hearts betray us. Inside, fingers intertwined tightly, they faced the door. The oppressive air grew thick, pressing down like a weight upon their chests. That was when they heard it, a whisper slipping through the keyhole, seductive and sweet. Let me in. I've missed you. We can play again. Through the darkness, the laughter ringed louder, blending with cries for help, blurring the line between desperation and invitation. The sky outside darkened, and the wind howled, culminating in a storm that mirrored their own rising panic. The Harringtons deliberated. A choice loomed over them. Do they open the door? Or do they succumb to the shadows circling their lives? The flesh that had entered Millstone. The clock struck again. 3 a.m. What choice would they make as the darkness closed in? A chill crept through the air, whispering promises of the unknown, and just then, an unseen presence hovered behind them, brushing past their shoulders like a cruel reminder that they weren't alone in their home. The answers they sought were now dangling closer than ever, but would they dare to grasp what lay before them? The air grew thick with uncertainty as the Harringtons stood at the threshold of their fear. Tom glanced at Margaret, her eyes wide, brimming with an anxiety that wrapped around them both. The deeper the laughter echoed through the night, the harder it became to discern reality from nightmare. Each glance to the door tightened the knot in his stomach, the desperation of the voice seeping into him. Tom, what if it really is a child? What if it's him? Margaret trembled, her voice unfurling like parchment in a fire. Margaret, think. Tom snapped, the edge of fear sharpening his tone. That's not our son. He has gone. We buried him. But deep down, Tom felt the ache, the hollow place where hope once blossomed. The whispers now seeped through the cracks like suffocating vines, crawling up their legs, binding them in place. It's a trick, he forced himself to say, though uncertainty gnawed at him like a hungry beast. Suddenly, the laughter swelled again, high and shrill, wrapping around their senses. A dull thud echoed from deeper in the house. Could it be the wind? Or something worse? The furnace rattled and groaned as if testing its strength against the madness deepening in the night. Margaret's breath hitched, a gasp caught like fish in a net. Lily, she whispered, suddenly standing frozen, as if the realization had flared in her mind like lightning. She's alone out there. What if get away from the door? Tom shouted, grabbing her wrist and pulling her back, but the call of the child was inescapable. We can't just open it. We can't let him in. They said to stay away. Another knock sent a jolt through them both. It was stronger this time, insistent, a rough sound of something desperate from beyond. Please, please let me in. The voice grew more frantic. I'm scared. I want to come home. Tom's pulse raced. Every instinct screamed to protect Margaret, to shield her from the darkness clawing at their sanity. But every heartbeat called back to the little girl wrapped in the shroud of the unknown. What if it is her? What if Margaret started? But the words spilled helplessly between them. An unsettling hush enveloped the air, an eerie silence that practically hummed with tension as time drew out around them. Shoo! Tom snapped, holding a finger to his lips, but it was too late. From just behind them, the air shifted, a cold breath cascading down the nape of his neck. He spun around, but nothing was there, just shadows. Then came one single, low, haunting laugh that reverberated, pulling the threads of their fear tauter. I'm here. I'm home. The laugh was mockingly tender, and it sent a chill crackling up his spine. Margaret's eyes darted toward the hallway leading to the back of the house. Tom, what if we have to? With an unsettling noise, the door swung inward, a crack forming. The threshold darkened, as if the very night had seeped into their home. Margaret stood paralyzed, her gaze locked on the darkened shape just beyond the entryway. The child outside pressed against the door, but she couldn't see clearly what hovered there. Tom felt the hairs on his arms stand up, and a wave of instinctual panic surged. "No," he bellowed. "Stay back." Suddenly, what felt like 1,000 voices joined the child's plea from beyond the door. It was a chorus of distorted laughter woven with cries, a tapestry of desperation unfurling through the night. In that moment, a decision was forced upon them: open the door and face whatever silently lurked in the darkness, or turn their backs on a nightmare they could no longer run from. As Tom's mind raced through possibilities, the lights began to flicker. Then, right in front of them, a figure emerged from the shadows, standing tall and indifferent. It was neither dead nor alive, just a vessel of darkness wrapped in reality. With breath caught in his throat, Tom found himself asking what he had avoided for far too long. Who or what truly trailed them? And as the figure moved closer, it whispered coldly, "I've come for what's mine." The night felt alive now, heavy with impending dread. Would they seize the moment and confront the truth, or would they dance to the sinister tune that beckoned from the darkness? In the heart of Millstone, dawn would not come easily, if at all. The figure loomed closer, twisting shadows around its form like a tattered cloak of despair. Tom's heart hammered against his ribs, each beat a frantic warning. He couldn't let it reach them. "Get back," he shouted, stepping forward instinctively. Margaret clung to the wall, her knuckles white. Fear radiated off her like heat. "But what if this is her, Tom? What if we miss something?" Her voice quivered with a mix of hope and terror, and Tom could hardly bear her gaze. "No." He shook his head violently, his body tense with resolve. "No, Margaret. It's not her. It can't be." The laughter swirled around them again, shrill and mocking, and Tom gritted his teeth, trying to drown it out. The figure's outline sharpened as it moved, seeming to ripple endlessly like water disturbed by a stone. "You doubt me still?" The voice was soft, yet the menace dripped like poison, thick and suffocating. "You've called to me. You welcome me." Each syllable twisted within Tom like a knife. "We didn't he yelled, desperation spilling over into fury. "We want nothing to do with you." The figure paused, an unnatural stillness falling over it. Then it made a gesture as if beckoning behind it. Soft, childlike giggles echoed, weaving between the whispers of the dark. "Mommy, Daddy." A voice broke through the cacophony, sweet and yearning, akin to an angel wrapped in shadows. It was Lily's voice, the very sound that could melt their hearts but cut deeper than a blade. "Lily." Margaret's breath caught in her throat, hope igniting in her eyes. "It is her. Tom, please." "No." He closed his eyes, shaking his head furiously. "Don't listen." At that moment, the shadows swirled, revealing two more figures behind the dark entity, a boy and a girl. They stepped forward, ghostly limbs reaching into the dim light, as if drawn by an unseen force. "Why did you leave us?" the girl cooed, her voice dripping sweetness that reeked of decay. "We waited for you." Tom's chest tightened like a vice. He felt warmth from Margaret's hand slip away as she tore her eyes from the shadow to the children stepping forward. "They need us, Tom. We can't." "They're not real," Tom shouted, layers of despair peeling back, revealing raw panic. "They can't be." And then it hit him: the truth clawed its way to the surface, clawing through layers of denial. His memories flooded back, vivid and cruel, haunting reminders of their last moments with Lily. Anguish, guilt, the leaden weight of grief buried deep within him reared up, almost choking him. The girl, the one resembling Lily, smiled, a sly, knowing grin that sent a shiver racing down his spine. "We just want to be home, like before." "What do you gain from this?" Tom demanded, voice breaking. The figure that had summoned them, the children, all of it. It was a manifestation of everything they couldn't confront. "Everything," the entity hissed softly. "The truth, dear Tom. If you let us in, I'll show you." Before he could react, the shadows lunged forward, swirling around Margaret as she reached for the children, drawn in by the seductive call of what they had lost. "No." Tom lunged for her, lunging like a desperate animal. As he grabbed her wrist, he felt a chill bite through his skin, the weight of the darkness attempting to drag them both under. Margaret's eyes blazed with a mix of fear and defiance. She was staring into the abyss now, where nightmares flickered. "We have to know. Even if it hurts, we need to." Just then, everything erupted. The walls began pulsating, thumping like a heart, and the dark laughter lifted into a violent crescendo. The children twisted, their faces morphing into grotesque reflections of despair, laughter mingled with cries piercing the air. Tom felt the atmosphere fracture, time slowing as reality warped around them. "Come with me," the figure commanded, and you will see. As Tom fought to pull Margaret back, he knew in that moment the decision loomed above them like a sword, one-edged with the threat of unbearable truths. In the eye of the swirling storm of shadows and despair, Tom's heart lurched at a brutal realization. Would confronting their past reveal salvation, or would it consume them whole? The house trembled as he wrestled with his decision, and outside, dawn approached ominously, holding secrets that were best left buried. With that final thought, the shadows lunged, and the door behind them slammed shut, trapping them in a world where every choice could lead to either redemption or utter ruin. The shadows coiled tighter, and for a moment, the world around Tom and Margaret halted as he struggled against the pull of despair. The air grew thick and heavy, each breath a challenging task. "We can't do this," he shouted, his voice clawing desperately through the suffocating darkness. Margaret's eyes sparkled with a mix of fear and determination, their usual brightness dulled by unshed tears. "Tom, please. What if there's a way to bring them back?" she insisted, her voice cracking like glass. The dark entity twisted, its features melting and reshaping in the flickering light, mocking their anguish. But it wasn't their pain that made the shadows grow. The thing that had taken their beloved daughter reveled in their fear. "You only need to trust me," it whispered, as if trying to seduce them into the abyss. "In darkness, I'll show you the way." "No." Tom felt the surge of rage whip through him. He couldn't let the memories trap them here. Not now. As if sensing his shift, the entity laughed, a sound that sent chills racing down his spine. The children shifted closer, their laughter morphing into sobs. "Mommy, Daddy," they cried, their voices laced with an otherworldly sorrow. The chorus pierced him, unraveling what little resolve he held. "Why did you leave us?" Tom's mind twisted frantically. There were moments he thought he could still hear her laughter, a playful echo in their empty home. Memories flooded in, each one a shard of glass cutting into his heart. "It's a trick," he spat out, gritting his teeth. "They're not real." But how could he be sure? Margaret's fear leached into him. Fantastical images of Lily spun with a sickening sweetness. For a fleeting moment, he almost believed they were there, home with them again. "What do we do, Tom?" she whispered, her voice trembling as she stared into the spectral children. "Fight," he breathed out, his thoughts sharpening into focus. He couldn't let them win. Fight against it. Just as he blurted his resolve, the figures lunged forward. Shadows enveloped them, dark whispers creeping into the corners of his mind, sowing doubt, begging for submission. "Stay with us, forever," the entity hissed, its words seeping into Tom's heart like poison. Fighting through his own clenching despair, Tom tightened his grip around Margaret's wrist, refusing to let her slip away into the darkness. "We have to remember what happened. What really happened," he said, both a plea and an order. The shadows writhed, desperate to claw back the depths of their tragic memories. Every word was a precarious balance of hope and horror. "If we forget, we'll lose everything," he declared, pulling Margaret in closer, forcing eye contact. Her pupils flickered with uncertainty, the shadows dancing between them. "Tom," she hesitated, but a sudden flicker of clarity sparked in her eyes. "You're right. We have to fight for Lily, even if it hurts." Her voice trembled, but her resolve solidified like steel. With newfound determination, they summoned the love they had for their daughter, a beacon against the encroaching tide of darkness. "Leave us," Tom bellowed, fury coursing through him, twisting into a protective shield around them. "You're not our past." The shadows recoiled, a brief moment of vulnerability revealing the entity's true visage, a dark swirl of pain and rage, a frightening reflection of their own torment. The laughter turned into screams, splitting the air with a deafening intensity that felt alive. "Fight or you will join us," it warned, the threat lingering like the stench of fear. Suddenly, the ground beneath their feet trembled violently, as if the very foundation of the house rebelled against the weight of their shared grief. Tom stumbled, and for a split second, he lost his grip on Margaret. Just like that, the spell of shadows was stronger than ever, reaching for her. Tom's heart raced. He couldn't let her fall. "Margaret!" he screamed, lunging forward, every muscle in his body straining against the darkness S pulled in that instant. The entity's laughter morphed into a wretched cackle, and the world around them began to dissolve, air stinging like ice. The truth they feared was on the verge of unraveling, and he could feel the weight of its revelation heavy and threatening. Let us be together forever. The entity beckoned, angling its twisted features toward Margaret, coaxing her with the visual of their perfect past. As the darkness continued to war with them, wrapping tightly around his limbs, Tom wondered briefly, could the truth bring them both back, or would it shatter everything they thought they knew? Just as he considered the unthinkable, a blinding light burst forth, piercing through the shadows with an otherworldly radiance. For one glorious second, everything paused, then it ripped them apart entirely. Tom gasped as reality lurched. What lay on the other side of that light? Would the journey reveal salvation or catastrophe? And in that shattering moment, he realized the choice was one they would have to make together, or risk losing each other forever. Time blurred as Tom spun helplessly in the void of white light. The familiar faces of his daughter and Margaret flickered in and out, like weak signals from a broken radio. "Margaret!" he shouted, clawing at empty space, panic bubbling up inside him. The oppressive darkness that had once enveloped them was extinguished, yet a gnawing unease replaced it. Still in free fall, the sensation of weightlessness filled him. "Where are we?" he whispered, fear crackling like static around him. Just moments ago, they had been so close to each other, so determined. Now, was he alone in this stark emptiness? Then, as abruptly as it had come, the light collapsed into obsidian darkness. It felt alive, pulsating with the echoes of every whisper, every fear, and every doubt they had ever harbored. Tom stumbled forward, regaining his balance. Sweat mingled with the chill around him, and the shadows returned, swirling with malevolence. Tom, the soft, trembling whisper pierced the darkness. It was Margaret. Relief washed over him, but it was short-lived. Her voice trembled, echoing from somewhere deeper, more unsettling. "Margaret, where are you?" He strained to see through the shroud of shadows, feeling an overwhelming urge to find her. "I don't know. It's so dark." The sound of her voice illuminated a flicker of desperation which cut through him. "Stay close. I'm coming." As Tom moved cautiously, the shadows began to shift, whispering curses of despair, memories twisted into grotesque forms. "You lost her once," they taunted. "Who says you won't again?" Their voices coiled around him like snakes, each hiss a reminder of their darkest thoughts. "No," he shouted defiantly, gathering all the strength he could muster. He pulled on the threads of his love for Margaret, gearing himself for whatever lay ahead. "We're getting out of here. There is something here with me," she cried, her voice breaking, and Tom's heart lurched. He pushed toward the sound, arm outstretched, every step a battle against the crushing darkness. Suddenly, the shadows surged. Dark figures loomed, taking form against the nebulous backdrop. Their hollow eyes stared into his soul, filling him with dread. "Join us, Tom," they urged, voices dripping with false sweetness. "You can stay here with us." Piece by piece, forever images flashed before him. The laughter of his daughter, the warmth of Margaret's embrace, their family together in the garden under the bright sun. "No, I won't let you take me." He gritted his teeth, filling his heart with their love, every memory a bulwark against the vibrant tides of sorrow. With each step, the darkness grew restless. The air crackled with an ugly energy, swirling around him, tempting him to surrender. "What if it's too late?" it hissed. "What if you let her slip away?" He pushed back, visualizing Margaret's face, the love shining in her eyes. "I will find you," he cried into the abyss, determination knitting itself into his resolved eye. In the distance, a glimmer of light flickered. Hope ignited within him, urging Tom forward like a moth drawn to a flame. "Margaret!" he bellowed, breathless, heart racing. But as he approached that light, doubt crept back in, a chilling whisper echoing in the recesses of his mind. What if she doesn't want to be found? What if she's already chosen the shadows? The question hung in the air like a noose. Tom's heart pounded violently as panic twisted within him. Would the light lead him to her, or plunge him deeper into despair? Just as he reached for the radiance, strong arms seized him from behind. Shadows threatened to engulf him again, gripping tighter with an unyielding force. "Tom." Margaret's voice rose above the chaos. But was it a plea for help or an echo of the shadow mocking his fate? In that moment of agonizing uncertainty, Tom realized they might not be the only ones who had a choice to make in the darkness. Would they embrace the light or succumb to the shadow's seductive pull? The truth awaited at the threshold of hopes and fears, tantalizingly close, and yet impossibly out of reach. Tom's entire body tensed as the grip tightened around him. He fought back against the shadows, summoning every ounce of strength he had left to wrench himself free. His heart pounded like a drum, the sound echoing in the darkness, a reminder of the peril they faced. "Margaret!" he shouted again, desperation clawing at him. The icy tendrils around him seemed to pulse with life, responding to his anguish. Each breath felt heavier, weighted down by fear. "Tom, please." Her voice was distant, yet piercing, shivering with an urgency that reverberated through him. Was she safe? Was she even near? Panic wrapped its cold fingers around his throat. "Just hold on. I'm coming." He lunged forward into the darkness, relentless determination propelling him despite the shadows clinging to his limbs like wet cloth. With every step, he felt the space shift, the air alive with whispers, a cacophony of torment and doubt. What if she's already gone? The shadows beckoned, their voices taking on a chill, slick tone. "What if you're chasing a ghost?" "No," Tom bellowed, teeth clenched. He recalled their last laugh, the sweetness of Margaret's smile, and the soft warmth of his daughter's embrace. Those memories flared bright, illuminating flickers of light even in the blackest depths. They were anchors, grounding him amid the chaos. But the shadows twisted his thoughts, morphing memories into grotesque mockery. You were never enough for her. They slithered, soft but venomous, just like before. Anguish ripped through him as images of past failures surged. A few mistakes replayed in his mind, a missed football game, an ignored phone call. Each memory weighed like stones in his heart. He wrestled with the demon of self-doubt, refusing to let them swallow him whole. "Margaret!" he yelled again, voice hoarse and cracking. "Stay with me." He forced himself to push forward, deeper into the darkness, trying to ignore the voices fighting for control. There, a whisper peeked through the chaotic chorus, her name, cradled by a yet unseen presence. Tom, it was soft, fragile, and filled with longing. Hope ignited anew. "Margaret, where are you?" He turned sharply, the shadows swirling around him. The sounds melded into an overwhelming roar. He could feel the weight of the darkness, heavy and suffocating. "Right here." Her voice was stronger now, pushing through the despair like a lifeline. "Right here." But then, as if spurred by some unseen force, the darkness thickened, swallowing her words whole. "Don't listen to her, Tom," it growled, and Tom could almost see the silhouettes forming ominous shapes around him, spurious comforts wrapped in deceit. "Stay with us," he gritted his teeth, feeling the pressure ebb and peak. "I won't trade her for your lies." He cried out defiantly, yet the shadows tightened, pressing against him with a relentless might, and doubt seeped back like poison. Would he fail again, dragging them both into despair? "Tom!" The cry fractured the darkness, pulling his focus. He tore himself away from the oppressive clutches, lurching toward her voice. The shadows hissed in fury, retreating just a little, as if torn between their demand for him and the allure of Margaret's call. That a dim light flickered to life behind him, dancing like wildfire in the wind. It grew brighter, pushing through the stain of shadows, pulling him in two directions: forward, toward the light, and back, toward the hold of despair. Would that light guide him to Margaret, or was it just another trap? He hesitated, heart racing furiously, an internal battle raging within him. Then he felt it, a jolt of recognition, an undeniable force that compelled him. He was not alone. "I'm coming," he breathed as he launched himself toward the brilliant glow, ready to face whatever awaited him beyond the veil of darkness. But before he could reach it, the shadows erupted, engulfing him once more. A chilling laughter echoed, mocking him. "You think you can escape?" The darkness surged, clawing at his sanity. They didn't just want him. They wanted to drown Margaret too. And in that moment, Tom felt a horrifying truth unfold before him. Would he lose her to the shadows, or could he save them both from their fate? The decision loomed. Each instant stretched thin, burdened with the weight of uncertainty. He closed his eyes, gripping tightly to that thread of hope, ready to push against the darkness. But the moment he took a step forward, he heard something that made his blood run cold. A scream. "Tom, help me!" A haunting wail echoed from the abyss. Was that Margaret? Despair gripped him, sharper than any pain he had ever known. What nightmare had he unleashed, and would he have the strength to face it? Tom's breath hitched, the scream piercing through him like a knife. It was unmistakably Margaret, and despair coiled tightly around his chest. The shadows, reacting to his turmoil, shifted and writhed, wrapping even tighter around him. Each whisper became more urgent, more sinister. "Turn back, Tom." The shadows hissed, their tone low and mocking. "You'll wish you hadn't come here." But he couldn't. Not now. Not when her voice echoed just ahead, shrill and desperate. "I'm here," he shouted, the rawness of his throat burning as he fought against the darkness, rage igniting a spark of strength within him. "Margaret." He lunged forward, instinct guiding him through the swirling void. The light flickered closer, intensifying, almost as if it sensed his determination. He felt the shadows recoil slightly, their grip loosening, throwing him off balance. The urge to retreat clawed at him, but he willed himself onwards, spurred by her cry. "Tom!" Another scream, saturated with fear, echoed through the dark. "Help me, please." He could almost see her now, a silhouette against the blinding light, desperately reaching out. The shadows swirled in tandem, trying to drown out her voice once more. "She's gone, Tom," they whispered, their chilling tone trying to seep into his thoughts. "All your efforts are in vain." "No," he shouted, a battle cry fueled by raw emotion. "I won't abandon you. Not again." With every ounce of his being, he thrust himself toward the light, fighting through the tendrils of despair that tried to pull him back into the inky void. Tom felt the warmth wash over him, illuminating his path just ahead. For a brief moment, the darkness receded, and he could see Margaret, her face twisted in fear and desperation, the embodiment of what he stood to lose. "Tom, please," she cried again, her arms outstretched, and he could see the shadows crawling toward her, the cruel mist enveloping her ankles like chains. He reached out, fingers twitching toward her as if to grasp her hand. "I'm almost there," he screamed, heart racing dangerously close to the edge of panic. But just as his fingers brushed the light, the shadows retaliated. With a resounding howl, they surged forward, the cacophony of their anguished cries drowning out his resolve. Tom felt the cold, painful grasp of the shadows wrap around him once more, dragging him painfully back. "Join us," they snarled, their voices slinking into his consciousness. "Embrace the darkness. It's where you belong." No. He fought against their pull, images of their life together flashing through his mind: laughter around the dinner table, weekend family hikes, sunset drives. Each moment was a bright star in an oppressive sky, moments he wouldn't trade for anything. "Fight it, Tom." Margaret's voice broke through once more, a beacon cutting through the haze. It propelled him. He gritted his teeth, fighting against the shadows with all he had. "I won't lose you." He surged forward again, determination pushing him past the last barrier, pulling himself free from the shadows' deadly embrace. He saw her, visibly trembling, tears glistening in her eyes, as they both fought against the relentless tide. Just as he reached for her, the shadows recoiled. They seemed to hiss and scream, a torrent of anguished whispers that echoed in the space around them, swirling violently before them. "Margaret," he bellowed, breaking through the last remnants of self-doubt. "I'm here." But with one final effort, the shadows lashed out, the darkness quaking, and for a split second, the entire world shifted. He felt a tremor beneath him, a breach between their reality and the haunting void. And in that split second, Margaret's expression shifted, her eyes widening in terror, her voice cracking. "Tom, look out." The ground beneath them shattered, spilling into an abyss that seemed to open wider than time itself. Tom's heart raced as he stumbled backward, the terrifying unknown beckoning him closer to the edge. Could this be the end? Would they both be consumed by the void? The chase was far from over, and yet, creeping closer was a monstrous shadow, its shape more defined and menacing than before. What lurked in that darkness? And could Tom truly save Margaret? Or had he unwittingly embraced a fate worse than death itself? The ground continued to quake beneath Tom's feet as he braced himself, panic flickering in his chest. Fresh echoes of Margaret's screams filled his ears, muffled reminders that time was running out. The monstrous shadow loomed closer, its form shifting and melding, distorting as if it was a creature crafted from pure fear. Somehow, Tom understood it wasn't just a shadow, it was a dark reflection of his own despair, a manifestation of everything he had failed to protect. "Margaret!" he yelled again, desperation painting his voice. The luminous warmth beckoned him, but the darkness clawed at him like a living thing, seeking to pull him under the weight of hopelessness. "Tom!" she cried, her voice echoing through the chaos, full of urgency. "Don't look back." He could see her struggling against the ropes of shadow. The vision stung, a reminder of the bond they shared that hung in the balance. She was fighting, hoping he would do the same. With a surge of strength fueled by love, Tom took another step toward her. He felt the resistance pushing him back, a suffocating grasp, but rage powered his resolve. It ignited flames of possibility, and he roared, "I love you, Margaret. I won't fail you this time." As if a spell had been cast, the shadows paused, hesitating at the confession of their bond. He could feel the ground shifting under his feet, fighting against the internal chaos. He surged forward, pushing past the suffocating grip of despair until his fingers grazed her outstretched hand. In that moment of connection, a surge of light erupted between them, pushing back the darkness with an intensity that rattled Tom's bones. It was a bond, one woven together through hopes and memories, love that could not and would not be extinguished by the abyss. But the shadow recoiled, a howling entity that thundered through the void, angrier and more desperate than before. "No, you cannot have her," it screamed, collapsing around them like a dark wave ready to crash. "Let her go," Tom shouted, his voice breaking through the howling winds that swirled around them, a mix of despair and anger. "She is not yours." The shadows wailed, coiling tighter around him, but the light surged. It was brighter, more intense, their love shining through like a beacon. And for a fleeting second, Tom felt liberated. Hope swelled within him, pushing against the shadows with force. "Hold on," he gritted, anchoring himself to her hand, squeezing tightly as he drew strength from their shared dreams, love blossoming like flowers in every crevice of darkness. "I won't let go." Margaret lifted her head, shock and hope flickering in her eyes as the light grew, refracting through the shadows that lashed at them. But then her face twisted, worry flashing across her features. "Tom, look out. Behind you." He turned just as the monstrous shadow lunged, monstrous teeth bared, an embodiment of his fears and insecurities. It swept through with agonizing speed, aiming to sever the bond they had forged. He couldn't afford to falter now. With sheer instinct, Tom dropped to the ground, rolling away just in time. The creature crashed into the space where he had stood, sending shockwaves of darkness rippling around them. He felt an icy sting of dread race through him, but he couldn't stop. He regained his footing, adrenaline pumping, and glanced at Margaret. The light between them pulsed, threatening to flicker at any moment. They had to break free, together. "Ready?" he shouted, desperation rippling in his voice. "Always," she replied, determination burning in her eyes. Gathering every ounce of strength and unity, they took a single step forward, the light flaring as they pushed against the darkness. It was now or never could they fend off the terror chasing them. But just as they advanced, the gnarled hands of the shadow reached out, clawing for their ankles, ready to drag them into the depths of despair. Would they escape? Or would darkness once again claim the light? Time was slipping away. Something crucial, something sacrificial was about to emerge. What hidden truth would be unveiled as they sought to battle the shadows and their own inner demons? The darkness surged, amplified by the screams and howls of the shadows fighting against the flicker of light they had conjured. Tom felt the weight of fear digging deep into his ribs, but the warmth of Margaret's hand anchored him, grounding him in their shared resolve. They were two souls battling against an army of despair, and this, the moment of reckoning, was their chance to confront every buried fear and lingering regret. "Now," Margaret shouted, her voice piercing through the chaos. Together, They forged a path through the darkness, every pulse of the light growing in intensity. Tom's heart raced. Matching the rhythm of their determination, they couldn't retreat. Not now. The shadow lunged again, a grotesque mass swirling with desperation. You think your love can save you? It hissed, each syllable dripping with venomous doubt. You cannot escape your past. Tom met its dark gaze with fierce defiance. You don't own us, he yelled, every ounce of his being infused with courage. You are just a reflection of our pain, a past we refuse to face. We are more than our mistakes. The shadows churned violently, their whispers transforming into screeches of rage. Yet, their declaration of love flared a brilliant light, illuminating the void around them, pushing back against the monstrous presence. Tom could see cracks breaking through the shadowy form, flaws exposed. The lies it thrived upon, the fear, the guilt were unraveling under the strength of their bond. The knowledge hit Tom like a bolt of lightning. They had to face what they had lost: Lily, their daughter, and the unhealed wounds left in her wake. They couldn't ignore their pain. They had to embrace it, to find peace within the chaos, or else the darkness would forever inscribe itself upon their souls. Lily, Margaret cried, her voice steady. We love you, and we miss you. We will find you. Tears streamed down her cheeks, each one a droplet of sorrow illuminated by the light, a tribute to their daughter. The shadows flickered, wavering in the face of truth. Tom clenched his jaw, tears prickling at the corners of his eyes. He felt the warmth of the love they had for their daughter pushing him to remember every moment: the laughter, the snuggles, the joy. Their memories formed a shining fortress around them. You may have taken her from us, he roared at the entity, but you cannot erase her from our hearts. We will fight to keep her memory alive. As they clung to those vibrant memories, the monstrous form before them shrank, howling against their defiance, shadows twisting like tendrils of smoke. You think you can conquer me? It screamed, relentless and furious as they pressed on. Yes, they cried in unison. We can. The light burst forth, shimmering with the essence of love and loss, the memories intertwining into a radiant glow, spilling over with fierce power. It surged forward, crashing against the dark form, each pulse radiating warmth, driving back the shadows with undeniable strength. Lily, we are here. Margaret's voice rang clear, melodic, and unyielding. We'll always be your family. With that declaration, the shadows shrank into rivulets of darkness, evaporating against the brilliance. The father and mother closed their eyes, willing themselves to embrace the truth. They could not bring Lily back, but they could remember, they could honor her existence, and they could let love guide them in the darkness. The shadows were stripped away, revealing an expanse of light that filled the void, illuminating a pathway lined with memories, happy moments, and pain alike, everything part of the beautiful tapestry of their family. They stood together. A warm golden light cocooned them, and a figure appeared before them, a glimmering vision of their beloved daughter, radiant and untainted. Mommy, Daddy. Lily's sweet voice melted through the air like honey, wrapping around them in a blissful embrace. I'm always here. Tears flooded Tom's eyes as he and Margaret stepped forward, reaching out toward their daughter. She shimmered like a sunbeam, a radiant bulb of love, vibrant and alive. In that moment, they understood that love does not end. It transcends even the depths of despair. The shadows faded fully, and with a final, anguished wail, the darkness retreated, its grip broken by the purity of their love. Tom and Margaret held each other tightly, the warmth of their daughter etched forever into their souls. The fear that had once gripped them like a noose began to dissolve, replaced by profound peace. Together, they stepped forward into the light, carrying Lily's love with them, knowing they would remake their lives in her honor. Millstone had been shrouded in fear for too long, but now, as dawn broke on the horizon, the first rays of sunlight spilled across the landscape. Hope resided with them now, a radiant gift, and within their hearts bloomed the promise of new beginnings. As they walked into the warmth of the sun, they whispered, "We will never forget you, Lily. You will always guide our way." But now, dear friends, it's your turn to take action. You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss our next exclusive story. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and make sure you're part of our wonderful community. Flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about this emotional ending. And finally, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to spread the love.